Hi, I'm Lewis Bear, and today I'm going to be talking about bats. Bats are mammals, and due to their webbed forelimbs, they are the only mammals who have been able to achieve true sustained flight. They represent about 20% of all mammals, and they are the second largest order of mammal, second only to rodents. Bats are generally placed in two categories: the larger, less specialised, and mostly fruit-eating megabats, and the more specialised, echolocating microbats. Most bats, 70% in fact, are insectivores, meaning they eat insects. Most of the rest eat fruit, and only a small percentage eat other things such as fish, frogs, and blood. Bats are found all over the world and are only absent in very cold climates, meaning they are the most widely spread mammal on Earth. They are responsible for the dispersal of seeds and the pollination of flowers, many plants relying entirely on bats to do so. Due to their colonisation and migratory behaviours, bats aren't seen to have the behavioural patterns required to be domesticated. However, little research has been conducted into the field of bat domestication. Increased human development and climate change has had a massive impact on bats the world over. These impacts on most animals are usually unseen. In relation to bats, noise pollution has had a massive impact on microbats who require echolocation for navigation. The increased development within the agriculture industry has also impacted on bat populations. The increased use of pesticides, coupled with land clearing for farming, has depleted the bats' food resources and habitat respectively. Wind farming too is affecting bat populations, with the blades of the wind turbines either killing the bats or the noise of which forcing the bats to relocate. Bats are largely seen as vermin or pest by most of the world. They are seen to be carriers of disease or associated with blood-sucking vampires. This negative perception has been enhanced by negative media attention, with articles on bat infestations headlined "Bat colonies sink teeth into city." It is not hard to see why society has a negative perception of bats. However, the benefits of bats has recently came into light, and in turn, the public perception has begun to shift. Farmers are seeing the agricultural benefits of bats that eat insect pests. Environmentalists too have been seeing the necessity for bats in maintaining the balance of fragile ecosystems. As society's education on the benefits of bats improves, so too does the public perception of them. Being mammals, bats have a region of their brain called the amygdala. This area controls the production of emotionally specific calls and sounds. The human amygdala, much like the bats, reacts to emotive noises similar to laughing or weeping. Research in the journal Frontiers in Physiology, involving electrostimulation of different clusters of neurons within the brain, which produced different emotional responses. The researchers were able to produce angry sounds, coupled with increased heart rate and increased breath rate. These results certainly give merit to the question of bats having emotions. However, the results are difficult to replicate in humans as a control for emotional range, due to the invasive nature of the experiment. As stated earlier, bats are carriers of disease and viruses. However, the risk to humans is rather low. Humans rarely come into direct contact with bats, and the health risks posed by bats is lower than that of most household pets. Bats are the causes of less deaths in Australia than lightning. However, if humans come into contact with bats, the risks vastly increase. It is theorised that the cause of Ebola was humans in West Africa consuming bats that were infected. Bat populations are decreasing across the world due to habitat loss. This is a problem for the many plants that rely on bats for their pollination and seed dispersion. It is also a problem for entire ecosystems that rely on bats to keep the balance. Some of the risks posed to bats are shooting, electrocution, planned dispersals, barbed wire, netting, and habitat destruction, just to name a few. Bats usually come into direct contact with humans only when they are sick or injured. And although bats are classed as mammals, humans generally categorise bats as birds. If it has wings, it's a bird. This categorising method involves perceiving objects with shared salient features to be of the same category. In relation to bats, this poses a risk, as bats share very little of the physiological and behavioural aspects of birds. This may have a detrimental effect on how humans interact with bats. When assessing animal welfare, there is a catch-22. We often have to look from the animal's perspective in order to perceive its best interests. However, it is impossible to think like an animal, and our own subjective assessment on what an animal does and doesn't like involves trying to maintain a conscious mental landscape that can only be achieved from the point of view of that being that is experiencing the specific stimuli. As environmentalism grows, so too does the protection and welfare of bats. The usefulness of bats for the environment and the agricultural industry sees bats gain more and more protection within society, and in turn, their rights increase. As for the future of bats, it looks promising. As public perception is swaying from negative to positive, more and more research will be conducted to assess further benefits to us and also to maintain the welfare and rights of bats. This research, however, will be for naught if the environmental degradation of their habitats continues. Thank you very much.